You're in law enforcement, this podcast is going to be for you, because this isn't just a Seattle thing. Any major city that had defund the police, that doesn't have enough cops, this is what can happen. And this is why things are going wildly out of control in these big Democrat-run cities. Let's jump on into it. Here we go. All right, so the title is Seattle Street Takeover near Seattle Needle leads to fireworks attack on police. Let's watch the video, right?
Incoming.
Video shows the blatant disregard illegal street racers have for the community.
Incoming.
Fox.
All right. That was a firework explosion, basically at a cop's car. So police see that and go $50K signing bonus for a lateral transfer into Seattle Police Department. I don't think so, right?
Fox 13 News obtained this video of racers shooting fireworks toward responding Seattle police early Sunday morning.
Police from Seattle and Tukwila say multiple incidents just like what you saw happen all over the weekend. Fox 13's 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗡 is at one of those locations in Seattle. So AJ, what are police doing about these takeovers?
An opposite scene.
Here's the bottom line. There can be 100, 200, 300 people at these takeovers. And you've got how many cops on that individual shift? Take all the cops from all of Seattle and put them on that. It's still not enough to deal with that many 100 people who are already there committing crimes, let alone start arresting people. There's one word to describe this, and it's called math. There's not enough cops, and you got too many nut jobs willing to break the law, and that's why they have such disregard where they can block off an intersection in Seattle, do their thing, do their silly games of drifting illegally, sometimes running over people, and there's nothing that cops can do about it, because if they do start arresting people and you've got a mob riot on your hands, how's that going to go for the cops? And we are dangerously close to this being an ongoing threat. And Seattle has no ability to contend with it because you don't have enough police, period.
Here behind me than what you just saw in that video from Sunday morning. In that video, you can see police seeming to just be sitting around and waiting. A lot of people are asking why they weren't acting. Video I obtained shows a street racer blockade right near the Space Needle early Sunday morning. Lime scooters are used to barricade the road, and racers attack responding police with fireworks. Video shows an explosion erupting inches from one of the officers.
Wow.
They've done another one of the street takeovers where they just block off a corner and, there's about 100, 150 people standing around just watching.
This is Tim Brooks' video. In it, you can hear one person ask the question many are thinking. Why are you not doing nothing? Seattle police say they had 2 incidents like.
What are you going to do? You're going to start immediately arresting people? You're going to arrest 1 or 2, right? You're there to basically make sure nobody gets killed at this point because you've got such a mob of people. It's math. It's just straight up numbers. The cops can't control the number of people there. The cops don't have enough manpower to make a difference on this. So, Seattle, I hope you're happy you went down that defund the police road, because this is the end result. Takeovers, I don't want to throw this out, but takeovers, they're getting more and more blatant about them just, doing it at earlier hours, doing it in more prominent locations. It's a thing, and everybody knows you can get away with it because you don't have enough police coverage. So Seattle, you begged for this. Now you're getting it. I hope you enjoy it. And other cities that you've done the same to your police forces, you're getting the same treatment. Why are there so many takeovers happening? Math, people.
The other one shut down the intersection outside 𝗪𝗪𝗧 Park on Friday night. And Tukwila police also reported 2 similar illegal takeovers in their community this past weekend. However, as of right now, there are no reported arrests from Tukwila or Seattle police departments. But that's not always how these illegal takeovers go.
I will note that the defendant does have a number of driving offenses, including serious speed violations.
About 2 weeks ago, a Tacoma police street racing task force busted an illegal takeover. Investigators told me they arrested a dozen people, impounded 6 cars, and recovered 4 guns. When it comes to this past weekend, Seattle police said the crowds were too big and hostile to intervene. And Tukwila police said,
if you have an explosive thrown in your direction that popped off as close as it did to that cop, you're not going after people. That's a total threat to your safety. You know, cops got to live in order to provide public safety the next day. So this isn't a hard call. What people don't realize is that the police can't go and arrest all these folks that are committing these crimes because the numbers are wildly stacked against their own personal safety.
They're using social media instead to go after racers who snitch on themselves by broadcasting their illegal behaviors. I spoke to Seattle police about this incident. They call these racers irresponsible, and they ask the community to call 911 if they see anything like this in the future. Reporting here in Seattle, I'm 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧, Fox 13 News.
If you're a fan of this channel or you just want to support the channel, you want some extra content, I have got the deal for you. Head on over to reasonabletv.com. Check out this video that you won't find anywhere else and you won't find on the current platform you're watching. Migrant accused of R-wording a New York City woman pleads not guilty as details of suspects' pasts emerge. Yeah. Why isn't this plastered all over social media? Well, because it doesn't look good. It's just not a good look, right? And mainstream media is covering up for what is going on out there, but not here on News for Reasonable People. But we can't do it on normal channels. So Reasonable TV, you can check that out. We've got a 14-day free program. You want to do that? Otherwise, it's $3.99 a month, $3.99 a month. That is less than the cost of 2 Monster drinks or 1 coffee from Starbucks. If you want to go into once a year, it's even cheaper than that. It's $39.99 a yearly. And you get a bunch of other stuff, 25% off all of our merch. You get some exclusive early release videos and this content that you won't find elsewhere. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. Thanks in advance. You know, looking at this situation down the road, why would it get better? If you're one of those guys that you're just dying to, drift your car around the intersection, if that's your big thing, we're probably not going to hang out because, hey, I don't know. Take your car to the track. Is that not an issue? It's not as much fun, Sean. We want to drift and maybe hit somebody, take some poor kid out, lift them up in the air and throw them over the top of the car. You see those videos all the time, don't you? Yeah, and you're like, good Lord. I mean, it makes me think I just don't want to go outside of my home ever again after like 9 p.m., right? Nothing good happens. Nothing good happens late at night, right? Because that's when the goblins come out and they know that there's not enough police running around. The bad guys know. I mean, it's a known quantity. Seattle police responded to 2 separate takeovers. We got the T-Mobile Park and the Space Needle. Those are, they're in downtown Seattle. One's in kind of not south. It's south of downtown Seattle, just by a little bit. T-Mobile Park. But then we've got these things are happening all over all the time. And it's because the criminals know that there's not enough police to really make a difference. And their odds of having these takeovers, going in their direction, meaning they're not going to get busted, they're very, very high. As you can see by this one, you had 2 major ones. How many arrests did you have? None. Because I believe the police have a mandate to basically look at the situation, identify what's going on. All right, we got a massive crowd here and they are violent. I mean, having an explosive thrown at you, let's be reasonable. Have you ever, had an M80 or an M1000 go off, in close proximity to you? They're loud and they're explosive. People want to say, it's just a firework. Yeah, that can take off your hand. That could kill you, if you're up close enough to it, or something pops off of that and hits you. So, according to authorities, police were called to monitor the street takeover near First Avenue and South Atlantic Street, right in front of T-Mobile Park. I mean, that is as blatant as it gets, right? There was a large crowd, and some of them tried to incite them to surround patrol cars. Folks, that is what is coming next. Takeover of police cars. Because why wouldn't they? You got 2 cops inside, maybe? You got 50 people that surround the car. What are the police going to do? They're wildly outnumbered. They just going to start randomly shooting? No, not unless they're absolutely forced to. And then, I mean, you've literally got anarchy at that point, right? You've got anarchy. You got a situation here in Seattle where what I've been talking about for years now, it's not an exaggeration, since the whole defund the police thing, for years now, we are upside down how many cops in Seattle? 500? 600? 300? 400? Whatever it is, it's not working because you can't take care of this kind of thing. When I was a kid, this wouldn't have happened. This would not have happened. You wouldn't have had the brazen attitude that these kids have now. Then they know the numbers are in their favor. Again, I go back to math. It's not that hard to figure out. So, Seattle City Council is doing the best that they can. They've authorized $50,000 bonuses for lateral in transfer, meaning an experienced police officer you can put on the street. They're offering $50K, but you can see what they're working with. Is $50K worth your life? No, it's not. And in a city where they basically have no respect for law and order. Simple enough, right? Simple enough. A lot of these folks are probably not from Seattle. A bunch of these folks are from down south. They're from Kent, Auburn. You got just a bunch of gangs running around. They come to downtown Seattle because they know that's the place to be. On Sunday morning, Seattle police responded to another illegal takeover. This one happened just blocks from the Space Needle, shutting down the intersection of Clay Street and 3rd Avenue. That's right in the heart of just nonsense. Okay, and then we got the Lime scooters. What they're doing is they're taking and they're stacking up Lime scooters to basically quadrant off anybody coming in. You'd have to drive over the top of these, stacked up Lime scooters. I'm a fan of Lime scooters when I'm on one, but when there's one tossed into Lake Washington, with its battery, I'm a hard no-go. They end up just being street litter. So, who would have thought, hey, hand out free bikes and we'll see how this goes in a Democrat-run city like Seattle. I mean, disregard all the graffiti around. I'm sure the street bikes will be just fine, the Lime scooters. Seattle Police Department also reported one person jumped on the hood of their patrol car, but escaped into the crowd. So you get out of your car and you try and arrest that one person, somebody hops into your car and takes off. It's that kind of environment that we're talking about. And you don't have the personnel to push back on it, to stop it. Seattle Police Department said they did not intervene because of the size and hostility of the crowd and because 911 callers only report traffic crimes. I mean, we are at a point where anything goes. Anything goes. I think we had, my girlfriend sent this to me, and she rarely sends me stories. She doesn't watch any of my content. You got somebody next to you that, wants to tell you about what happened in their day. Well, I podcasted this, and I podcasted, did you watch? And she's like, no, I don't watch any of your content. That's fair enough, right? You guys watch enough. Street takeovers run rampant over weekend in multiple cities. This is like 4 major cities, and this is just here in Seattle area. And you know why? Because they can. Because they can. And they are. And this isn't getting better. I was at Gasworks Park. Was it last summer? Maybe it was this spring. I can't remember. You know how all seasons kind of run together after a while? I was at Gasworks Park, and a mini bike takeover of like this big slab concrete area of Gasworks Park. They took over, size of a big basketball court, and they were just on their, little mini scooters and their mini bikes. And then when you started to hear the sirens going, somebody obviously had called it in. A cop was coming. The mini bikes just all of a sudden, it was kind of like, a scene out of Mad Max or a scene out of Road Warrior where, all the guys with masks that are all jacked up, all of a sudden they single line it out of there and they're off on their way to find gasoline from somewhere else. It was one of those kind of things. And I was like, yeah, all right. This is Seattle. And this was I want to say 7 o'clock at night, and these guys are just running around, and they're just, riding through a public park, probably 30 or 40 of them. And, you don't have enough police to say, hey, there's some guys on illegal little bikes, mini bikes and scooters running around causing havoc. And they really weren't. But you can't just ride your bike around in a public park. You know what I mean? You just can't do that. So, but you can here in the Pacific Northwest. Other areas, this would be a hard no-go because they've not allowed this kind of thing to happen. We've allowed this kind of thing to happen. And now the numbers of what it takes to keep, public safety going in Seattle aren't there to prevent more and more takeovers from happening. So this is one of those topics that I look at and go, if those guys want to go crazy, if they want to go ham, there is not a lot that the citizenry or those responsible for public safety can do about it. We're overwhelmed, outmanned, outwomaned, and overwhelmed. So that's the way I see it. And this is one of those things where if you have one, big wally banger of an event in Seattle, something wildly goes sideways, it really puts that focus, it puts that emphasis on, hey, you know what? Maybe defund the police wasn't a genius idea. Yeah, maybe demonizing policing as a profession, maybe that just didn't really do a lot for public safety down the road. Even though in some twisted dystopian nightmare, somebody else thought, defund the police, this is going to be great, greatest thing ever. That's just, it would take a mental midget to actually believe that that was going to work out, given the system that we have right now, which is we're dependent upon law and order from a system of policing, the thin blue line that separates us from just anarchy and chaos. All right, it's enough for my my street takeover rampage today. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.